before I give y'all probably the biggest piece, the biggest announcement we've made on the podcast so far. Maybe one of the biggest announcements that Thrust Flight has made yet. Welcome to episode 7 of Pilots Say What, where we hear what pilots have to say. And I do like to open up the podcast with our Pilots Say What? What? Yeah, they have the right idea. That's because we do want to hear what they have to say. We do have a CFI here, and we have a student that's currently in the program. I will let you guys introduce yourselves briefly. I'll say, here's Lauren. Lauren, can you tell me how long you've been in the program?
I think I've been in the program now for about 2.5 months. Started 2 months ago, or 2.5, I guess, in Denison on March 15th, and did instrument in about a month, and I'm working on commercial right now, stage 1.
That's great. That's great to hear. And it sounds like you're moving through pretty well, so I'm going to have some questions about that.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Absolutely. And then we have Braden here. You're a CFI out in Denison now, right?
That's correct, yep.
Gotcha. Now, I remember your first day, or not your first day, you were like training with us and kind of getting onboarded, because if you haven't seen the Eclipse video that we have on YouTube, he was actually in the other seat in the front of the Cessna. So we got to have some fun that day together. But I guess I kind of answered some of those questions for you. How long have you been, were you a student with Thrust Flight?
I was, yeah. I started this last September 2023.
Okay.
Then rolled through and started a month ago now. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm going to have some more questions about that, because it sounds, are you saying you started the ZTA program?
Yeah, so I came in with my private.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I started
Even then,
the
that's
instrument
fast.
program in September and then worked my way through all the way through CFII.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's May of 2024, so that's pretty cool.
That's pretty quick.
Okay. You're a great example, then, it sounds like, would you say, of how the ZTA program can go for someone?
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Well, then, can I ask you about the differences of what it was like to go to school as at Thrust, and maybe what it's like been so far as a CFI?
Differences in going to school and as a CFI. Well, first is responsibility.
Right.
So, as a student, you really put your full trust in that CFI that's in the right seat.
And now you're on the other side of that.
And now you are the trust, right? Like you're the responsible one that's supposed to know everything. And I will tell you right now that we don't. First starting out, that's what I was telling Lauren. The first 2 weeks of teaching, you learn so much just teaching.
Wow.
Because you're the man. You gotta know everything. So. So that's the main difference. Yeah, you're just responsible for everything in the right seat. You got to make sure that you're putting you and your student in a safe situation, and also maximizing their time to learn. So I'd say that's the main difference.
Which makes sense, all right. Yeah. But it's good to hear that. I hear people learn more from teaching than they do just from being a student sometimes. Not just in aviation, but in general. Yeah. So that's really cool. Well, how have you been enjoying the ZTA program so far? I mean,
it's great. I mean, no big complaints. Yeah. Everything's gone very smoothly, ahead of schedule. So, pretty happy camper there. I like the Denison location a whole lot. Especially, I haven't gone to Addison, but you go up there, you make one right turn and you're at the airport. That's kind of...
I see what you're saying. Like you get in there, it's not like you're in a city with a bunch of people, although there is a group of people that you're obviously going to school with.
Exactly. It's just a tighter community in general. But no, I've had no issues with my training. Everything's been exactly as expected, if not better. So
sounds like you're kind of getting what you were looking for out of it. How did you get into aviation? Is there something that sparked your interest, or did you just give it a try?
Yeah, no, both my parents fly for a living. My little brother flies for a living too. So it's kind of in the blood, I guess. Yeah. And I went to college and was applying to medical school, and actually in my gap year, I was doing my private just for fun, as a hobby. And little did I know that would really start to bite me. And I'd been going to Oshkosh ever since I was a kid and all that good stuff. And yeah, exactly. So it was kind of like, always loved it, but didn't want to do it for a living. And then it really...
But then here you are.
I know, yeah, here I am.
Well, was there a reason you were maybe... you said you didn't want to do it for a living, but is it because you had other interests, or you just were like, I'm going to do something different than my family?
I went to college, got a 4-year degree, got a great GPA, and had a good application, and was sending it in and everything else like that. And then just seeing, I think it was my younger brother do it and go through. He did the whole flight school thing. Yeah. And it's really fun. And also, I had the advantage of having my parents teach me, which is pretty cool for my private. So yeah, it was good.
That makes sense to me. Then it'd be hard to fight against it, especially if you get up in the air. Everyone says that once they start flying, that's when they know, right? It's kind of how it went.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Was it anything similar for you? I mean, how did you grow your interest in aviation before you ever became a student pilot?
So before I even became a student pilot, I was teaching and coaching for the last 7 years out in Grapevine. One of my little side jobs out there was flying a drone around. I got to video the football team, so it's perfect because I didn't have all the responsibilities as a football coach. But,
okay.
But I was in the air a lot. Actually, the kid that worked for me in that job, his dad was a pilot, and he introduced me to him, and he had a plane, and said, "Hey, are you interested in flying?" And I said, "Sure." Went on a disco flight with him, and just kind of like you said, just once you get up in the air, you kind of know. You're up in the air. It's awesome to be up there, and I just fell in love with it and then rolled with it from there.
And before that, you never even really considered it, right?
Not really. I was like everybody else that heard about the pilot shortage and, kind of sparked your interest a little bit, but, didn't really know of the path to get into it. Just kind of all fell in place with me, with the student that worked with me, with his dad. He had a plane, knew an instructor, just kind of all fell into place.
Is that how you found your way into getting your private, though? Did you go through them or someone they knew?
Yeah, so I went through his buddy who ended up being my instructor. I went through him while I was still coaching and teaching out at Grapevine. That was kind of a wild ride.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so during that year, it took me probably 6-7 months to get my private. And then, that's kind of how it all worked out. It was pretty cool.
Well, that begs the next question for me. If you got your private pilot license over that span of time and you were still teaching and coaching, right?
Yeah.
Was there had to be a point where you're like, well, I'm going to go this direction. And I'm going to go ahead and go for it.
Yeah.
I mean, when was that? Was that long after?
So let's say I started flying in October of that year. I guess it would have been 2022. Probably by November. I did it for about a month.
That's awesome.
I figured out, you take a few flights and you fall in love with it, and you just figure out, all right, this is something I want to do.
Yeah.
Moving forward. So it didn't take long for me to realize. Now the conversation with the wife, was a little different. Hey, I'm about to go from not having a job, from having a job to not having a job for probably anywhere from 6 to 12 months. That was an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
She's a rock star, so
that's what's up.
Yeah, she rocked with me through it. And,
hey, kudos to wife, because that's not easy.
Kudos.
Yeah. Well, so you quit around that time, and
No. So I found out that I guess
if you might be
the realization, probably November that year, that this was something I was going to do, long term.
Okay.
Now, obviously, I had made that commitment to be that coach and teacher, and I wasn't just going to leave that semester, especially with the coaching side. I was really heavily involved with the baseball team out there. So I finished out that commitment with them, had a great year with them. And then at the end of the year, decided to part ways, I guess you could say. With that. So, yeah.
That sounds like a nice transition. It's funny how you both say that you were doing something else while you kind of got started. Yep. I feel like that's a common story there, but the crazier part to that for me is how busy pilots tend to let themselves be. Even now, y'all are, just working as a CFI, you're looking to be available as often as possible. And even as a student, don't they require you to be pretty much as available as possible?
Say, there's no having a job or anything else like that, but it is a full-time gig. If you want to meet the expectations of the program and your own expectations, then I think you got to make yourself available, stay at the airport, study, all that good stuff. Well, at the same time, there is downtime for sure. You can still go to the gym and play pickleball or whatever it is that people like to do. But it is a full-time gig for sure.
And that's what I was wondering. I always like to ask people, if you're doing anything else outside of school, but like you said, it's a full-time job. It's an accelerated program, and you pay to be there. And so it seems like everyone who's a part of the ZTA program takes it serious because the goal's right there. It's a straight line if you participate. Right.
Yeah, sure.
I wanted to ask you about your experience with EOC. Like right now, which license did you say you were going for?
Right now I'm working on commercial, so I've done the instrument EOC.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. And and again, when did you start? One more time.
I think I started March 15th, and then I took the check ride. I want to say it was April 22nd or something else like that. So about a month.
For instrument, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
As far as just moving through, I mean, stage 1 took a couple of days, which, I mean, stage 1 isn't all that hard, to be honest. No, just, I mean, moving through it, trying to get done with commercial, hopefully in less than a month.
Yeah.
So that's the goal.
And then how about your written? Is it written for each step, right?
Yeah, exactly. So knock out your writtens. That's the ultimate lesson for anyone watching who wants to do it. Come in, everybody says get it done, and then nobody does it, but actually do it.
Did you get yours done already for commercial?
I got my commercial one done because I was grounded which took 2 days, but it was okay. But no, get the writtens done. I've gotten my AGI, IGI, all the other ones done, except for a little bit of CFI ones to go. But yeah, that's definitely advice. I mean, if you want to finish on time or faster, the writtens are something that can hold you back if you don't prioritize them. Yeah,
I see that, or I hear that a lot anyways. As a CFI, I mean, I know you've only been with Thrust Flight as a CFI for so long, right? But are you seeing how that affects people, whether or not they get their writtens done quickly?
Yeah, it's just... I don't even know. It's like a thorn in your side, right? Yeah. Like you just got to get rid of it. You know, you just got to do it. Nobody likes them. It's not like, and it's not a secret, you know. It's just something that you have to get done. And now they've done a really good job grounding the students. You know, I say that as if they're getting punished.
That's what it sounds like.
It's like, you know, they make sure that they understand that it's a priority, as annoying as it is, and you just have to get it done. And then you don't have to think about it. You know, you can go fly and all that stuff's done. And you don't have to think about that stuff.
Something like that's like a chunk that could just hold you back for no reason, right?
So, and they have so many resources now. To prepare for it.
It's so easy now.
You really don't have the excuse, you know, oh, it's just a hard test. Well, you know, there's about 10 different things you could do to get through this. So,
well, then, I mean, and maybe it's not 10, because I'm going to ask you. Then, could you name a handful of, just for the sake of, you know, hey,
like a good one.
There's one really, really good one, and it's Shepherd Air. And if you know, and the school really promotes Shepherd Air, and they give us access to it. And if you do Shepherd Air and you follow what they say to do, I guarantee you will pass. And I mean that in every sense of the word of guarantee. You know, like you will pass if you follow their regimented steps.
Okay.
For all the people there, Shepherd Air is just literally 1,200 questions. It's the question bank, and you memorize the answers, and you just move on.
Right. And you retain it. It sounds like if you keep doing that. It's
exactly.
It's like Duolingo.
Yeah. Do it every night before you go to bed. There you go.
Check in. I was going to ask you a follow-up question about, you said...
I think you're asking about EOCs.
EOCs, yes. Yeah, and I wanted to know how that felt for you, because you had to schedule with the DPE, obviously, both of you did for your private, right? But coming into Thrust Flight, the ZTA program, you were able to take advantage of the EOC. Can you speak to what that experience was like? Was it fast? I mean, did it feel any different?
It was great. It was great. Not having to use a DPE is a blessing, not only for the schedule, but you don't know normally who your DPE is. You get a bit of a loose gouge or something else like that. But when it comes to the EOC person, normally they're people you interact with. So like for my case, it was the chief, or the assistant chief, who's always around there. So you feel familiar. You're not nervous. I think you perform way better with an EOC person, which makes sense. I mean, you're familiar, like you're not nervous about it. And when they walk in, they're not big, bad, and scary or anything else like that. So no, mine went super smoothly. Ended up being an impromptu. I mean, I took my stage 3 and then got canceled a few times for weather. You can't control that. But then literally we had one good day and we were doing a barbecue, a little like team bonding activity, and the weather was good. And another student and I were pestering our EOC Hunter, who's our EOC guy, and he's like, all right, we'll take you up and we'll do it. So I mean, I think that also speaks to Thrust, the commitment they have, and that was time where he was off. He didn't have to do that, but he knew that we were trying to get done fast, and he did that because if you put stuff in, people are gonna, I think, reciprocate it.
It seems like I really like hearing, and I talk about it a lot, I think, already on the podcast, but I really like hearing about the primary CFIs and how they really are a guide for their students. So in a situation like that, it sounds like a good example. Obviously, maybe your EOC wasn't your primary, but it's the behavior of the CFIs here at Thrust Flight.
There are no surprises. It's a script. I mean, it's a script that you know because we've done. I mean, that's how 141 is basically. You know, you go through a certain training. Once you're done with stage 3, stage 3 is the check ride. So there should be no reason if you can do stage 3 that you can't do an EOC. So I mean.
Yeah. Well, then on as being a CFI now, are you seeing any more details or growing in appreciation any more than you already were as a student for the EOC? Is there anything else you've learned about it?
One thing I really like about the EOC is because they are so close to these guys. I mean, we've got, like you said, he's known Hunter since he got in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're just as, if probably not more hard on them because of that reason, because they want more out of their students. They understand that they are sending these pilots out to probably, have passengers on board, and they're responsible for a ton of lives. So they are very hard on their students, which I really like, because there's a stigma behind EOCs with, oh well, it's just kind of, it's easier, because of that reason, and that is not the case. Because they care so much for their students, they want the most out of their students. They're very particular, and they want to make sure that they've gone through all their training and done the stuff the right way. So that's the one thing I've really liked that I've seen about the EOCs, is that they are very diligent, and they make sure that they are covering everything they're supposed to cover, and if not more than that, to get more out of their students. So I've really appreciated that fact, just from Thrust in general and all the chiefs. So it's been really good.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Well, we've mentioned it a couple times. You guys are from Denison, and we haven't really gotten to talk a lot about that on the podcast. That's why I'm glad to have you guys here. And I think, like you were saying, you're out there. You don't have to drive through the city necessarily to get to school or to get to class. Maybe does it feel a little more? Well, I don't know about more, but did you go to school in Addison, right?
Yeah, so I did all my training in Addison.
Oh, okay, so you kind of are seeing some of the differences. That's what I was wondering. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, then can you highlight maybe some of those differences for you that I don't know, like let's say someone is a student and they're thinking about nothing as a factor other than preference, and they want to consider what the differences are in going to each school, and they're willing to make whatever drive is necessary. I mean, can you point out some differences that you notice?
Well, let's start with the big one. The location, obviously, is the big one.
Right.
I mean, Addison's in the middle of Dallas. There's a lot going on, both on the ground and in the air, right? And Denison's, it's only 50 nautical miles, or I say nautical miles because I'm so used to it. There's 50 miles north of Dallas, but you really kind of feel like you're driving out in the middle of nowhere as you're heading out there. Like we said, there's that Buc-ee's on the way. That's about it.
Yeah.
But so that's the main difference, and the airspace is super busy in Addison. You got Big Bad Bravo, Class B airspace right above you, and then in Denison is the Class Delta, and really you're only in that for 2 minutes before before you start your training per se. So that's the biggest difference. But the way I like to explain it, it's still a lot going on in both locations. And in both locations you're getting the same training. Just the environment's a little different. So I think the best way I could put it's like New York and Dallas, right? There's, New York City and Dallas both have a ton going on, right?
Yeah.
Just one has a little bit more land. So it just feels a little slower.
Yeah.
So
which some people prefer.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You can head outside the airspace in Denison and knock out all your maneuvers and whatnot. And right there, like I said, it takes 2 minutes to get those done.
Yeah.
And in Addison, you can still get those things done, under the Bravo and stuff like that, but it takes you a little bit more time to kind of get yourself out of the way. But yeah, so those are the main differences.
Did you come to Texas for Thrust Flight?
Yeah, I did. So I mean, I toured ATP. I don't know if I can say that.
You can,
yeah. All the different places and different mom and pop Part 61, all that good stuff, and came here and toured both Addison and Denison, and really liked the Denison location. I mean, it's just faster, in my opinion. I mean, everything's a little bit easier. It's more efficient, everything like that. That's the biggest draw, I think, to Denison. But yeah, I mean, that's why I came here. The EOC ability, everything seemed great. Yeah. This is a funny thing, but I guarantee all the viewers also look in Reddit for reputations on schools, and Thrust was the only one that wasn't bashed. So
yeah, I found myself, because I'm not a pilot. I'm pretty new to the aviation industry, and I do my research as best as I can. But I find myself on Reddit, and I'm looking, and I see names of some schools, and some people defend or whatever. But one I don't even really see pop up in any sort of negative light so far is Thrust Flight, and I'm like, I'm not using my own confirmation bias here. I'm like, I'm looking for it.
Yeah. Well, everybody who goes on, nobody goes on to say that they had a great experience at somewhere. It's like Rate My Professor for college. It's like a place where people who are mad about the semester would just go on there. There's no teacher who had a great reputation on there. You know? So, I mean, definitely a bit of confirmation bias when you look on Reddit, but I mean, it was good, like you said.
It's been really cool. I mean, did you come to the DFW also for Thrust Flight?
No, so I was here working as a teacher and a coach over at Grapevine High School. So I've been
Oh
here
yeah, you did
for
say that. You
no,
told me.
yeah,
Sorry.
you're good for about. I was here for
No.
about 5 years,
Mhm.
but I also did the same thing. You know, when I was looking for flight schools, I did the typical, you know, I guess you call it the old Chat GPT called Google. You know, and
Yeah.
you're just looking up different flight schools, and Thrust. You know, I called first. Thrust was the only one where I actually felt like a person.
Mm.
It wasn't necessarily, you know, every flight school has the stuff that's said about them online. So when I actually went to the schools, you
Mhm.
know, I felt like a person here.
Yeah.
You know, they treated me like you know had some values and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I really liked about it and drew me there. They had me there. I was like, all right, this could be a crappy school. I don't know,
Yeah.
but thank God it wasn't. It was fantastic. But they at least treated me like a person
Mm.
and treated me like you know I had feelings and stuff
Yeah,
like
right.
that. So
Like
not
you
just a
didn't feel
number.
like yeah. I know what
Yep.
you mean. Like oh hey, here's the facility. I mean, what do you want? Like
Yeah.
Yep.
we hear. I've heard that multiple times now from asking people about that question. They took the tour and then they could feel the difference. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yep.
not always easy to say, and people do say right online all
Mhm.
the time. But I think most of us follow our feelings a little more than we think. And
Yes,
when you take
absolutely.
that tour, it sounds like you
Yeah.
can tell.
Yeah, it's a community and they care about you, and
Yeah.
that's real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you called, did you talk to like Nathan or
Oh yeah,
Michaela? Yeah, it was
yeah.
Nathan you talked
And
to
Nathan
probably.
was awesome,
Yeah,
and because he kind of knew my situation as being a coach
yeah,
and stuff like that, and he was awesome. You know, he kept tabs on me,
yeah.
called me back whenever it was kind of time to start school, and yeah, he's a good dude.
That's really cool because I think we have Michaela over there now too. So if you call, you'll talk to either Nathan or Michaela. But people seem to like Nathan and Michaela, so
Yeah.
that's why I like to ask. You
Yeah.
mentioned the community aspect.
Mhm.
You said you can like really tell there's a community aspect, especially from the tour going into being a student and even as a CFI. I mean, I'm wondering if like how does that affect your journey? Do you imagine? Like, is there things that you can recall? Oh man, I'm really glad I have a lot of people around me right now. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah. So, and he probably can too.
Hmm.
Having a community helps you immerse yourself in it a little
Hmm.
bit more because everybody's doing kind of the same stuff,
Yeah.
and it also helps you whenever you're struggling. You know, we're all going to hit stuff that we aren't good at,
Hmm.
and to have somebody that you feel like you can actually go talk to about that,
Hmm.
and nobody's on their high horse here, which is what I love. You know,
Mm.
everybody's very um, real with themselves and real with the people around them. Where hey, I'm
Mm.
struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. They're not, you know, I'm the best pilot in the world.
Right.
I can land off with butter every single time. You know, all
You
that
can't
kind of
do
good
that?
stuff.
No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
but it makes things a lot easier when you are struggling. You actually have people to talk to that'll
Mm.
help you work through it. Somebody's gone through the same thing.
Yeah.
But you actually feel like you can go talk to those people instead of you know scared to go ask a chief to help you with whatever it is X, Y, and
Hmm.
Z. You actually feel like you can go do that and get the help you need.
Yeah. And you know, I like to hear those kind of stories because I mean, personally, I learned better that way. As my favorite jobs have always been the ones that I felt comfortable asking questions at. You
Yeah.
know, and it seems like this has a sort of environment like that. And also, someone who might want to be a pilot or to go to a non-traditional school may want something like that.
Mhm.
So I'm really glad that we have that to offer. I mean, do you have a
Yeah, I mean,
similar?
I think it's accountability
Yeah.
and competitiveness that's good
Yeah.
because, you know, we're in a group, you all kind of come in together and everybody's fighting for P1 in a good way. And I
Yeah.
think it's a non-constructive, non-gunner way.
Yeah.
But it's great because when you're like, oh, I got a 95 on there and oh, somebody got a 98 and you're like, damn it, you know, I really wanted that.
Yeah.
But I
That's
mean,
fun.
I think that's great. That's why I chose Denison especially was the
Mhm.
community and that,
Mm.
I mean, there's a group of at least 20 people who are
Mhm.
always at the airport. I mean, practically live at the airport.
Yeah.
And that is really good, not only because you get resources, you get the instructors who hang around. You can ask them any question. They're more than available.
Mhm.
None of them are like, I'm not being paid for this, you know, buzz off type thing. So, I mean, I think, yeah, that community is great.
Yeah, I wonder what helps foster. You know, I've been a part of a lot of jobs or teams and things like that. I wonder what really helps bring that community to a place where you said like it's safe and everyone's real with themselves. And do you think it's just that since it's an accelerated program,
Mhm.
there's an obvious common goal? Hey, I mean, we want to hit this step, that step, and this step.
Yeah.
Would you imagine it something like that? I mean, it's easy to be a part of a program and not know, like, and kind of just lollygag, but you can't lollygag in this situation.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's probably a big part of it, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
People pulling you along, making sure you understand that this is the time frame we want you to be at. And I think that, that goes into the community thing. There's, they kind of become, especially at Denison, they become family members, and there's nobody you want to beat more than your family members, right?
Yeah.
So, you see, you'll see Lauren, he's done with stage 1. Well, the guy that he hangs around with the most is probably wanting to get right past him on stage 1. I mean, that's just part of it. It kind of fosters it, but yeah.
Okay, well, that's cool. I just love hearing the inspiration and motivation that I feel like the student pilots and even the CFIs always have, and a lot of other industries I've like talked to or been a part of or visited. It's not always like that. There's just a lot of people just kind of like there. I'm just here. Well, it's never like that here.
And real quick, it's fun too, and that's one thing that Thrust does really well is they make it fun. The whole, even when you're not flying, you're on the ground and you're having fun with the people you're around, with the CFIs, with the chiefs, and all that kind of stuff. They're all there to have fun and also get work done. So.
Well, and there's another Denison thing. I mean, up there we have a huge runway, and we have EAA comes down and does LOAs for B-25, B-29. All these warbirds come in, and I mean, what was it last week? The Tri-Motor was in, and I think half the school went up for rides. I mean, it was just that kind of fun. Yeah. And I mean, there's a cool FBO next door, and we check out their airplanes, and everybody kind of
because you can watch from there, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, there's some aerobatic guys who do maneuvers up there and everything else like that, and you just go to the fuel pump and start a conversation, and that's pretty cool. And I think also, I mean, when you talk about why are people have a sense of community, I mean, it's a serious decision to do it, and it's financially serious too. Yeah, so there's no, especially for a lot of people who it's either career 2.0 or it's a big swap. There's no room for failure. So you got to get it done fast, be focused, and I think that forces you to do it. And
it makes it sound like it's easy for you to do it once you do make that decision, and that commitment. So
exactly. If you, I mean, that's what I think. Thrust is equal opportunity and not equal outcome. I think that's how everybody wants it. It's like if you put in the work, you get the squirrel gets the nut. It's like
and that's why I wanted to ask a little bit more about it. I really want people to like expand on that, and I really like what you guys said. Well, I want to fast forward it a little bit though, because I will hit some of these fun questions. But before we even transition into any of that, like what are some of y'all's aspirations? I mean, do you imagine, I mean, most people seem like they want to go to the airline, right? But I always like to ask and say, hey, what do you think it's going to look like, your journey from where you're at now and going forward? I mean, I guess I can start with you, right? Because you're as a CFI now. So
yeah, so moving forward, I mean, obviously the end goal is I'd like to fly, for one of the big companies out there.
Yeah.
But I think it also is very important to compartmentalize, especially, there's steps you've got to take to become a pilot, and one of them is building hours, becoming a CFI first. It can get real easy and real overwhelming if you start thinking about that big job at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Instead of compartmentalizing and just putting your head down and grinding through what you've got right in front of you. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'd say the big goal is to fly for the airlines. And there's steps that you got to take to do that. Keeping your head down and working is going to be the biggest step that you just gotta keep doing it, and it's going to take a while. You just got to keep rolling with it.
Yeah, well, I like that answer because you're just focused on what you got to do next, and that's what brings the goal on, anyways. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, I mean, do you have any aspirations and
to be a commercial pilot? And no, I mean, I totally agree with what Braden says. I think a lot of people get a little too dreamy, and that you put the cart before the horse. And I think it's easy to do it because who doesn't want to be
learning that in CFI?
Who doesn't want to be a 777 pilot or whatever else it is? But I think the real answer is whoever hires you. That's who you're going to fly for.
Yeah. Well, then then that being said, I'm going to jump a little further on it. I mean, do you have any dream locations you'd like to be flying out of more regularly? I mean, I don't know how that kind of stuff works, but I know sometimes people will relocate too. I mean, are any of those things in the plans? You're just kind of letting it go right now, and then you're going to see what happens when it comes.
He's going to give you a cooler answer than I can, because I'm 31 years old with a kiddo and a wife and family. So my dream is to be able to see them a lot. So Dallas is kind of my dream. I get to be around family and stuff like that. So I'm sure his answer will be a little bit cooler.
Well, I think that's a great answer, though. I mean, a lot of people don't even get to do a lot of what you're talking about.
Right,
so I mean, I think that's I hear a lot of people say that's a great reason to become a pilot is you get more options to, be with your family. I mean, I don't really know exactly.
Places, let's be real. I want to take them places and get to places. And that'll be fun.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, what about you? He says yours.
Well, he thinks I'm going to have some crazy answer. No, I mean, wherever I get hired as a CFI, which hopefully is here.
Okay, copy. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, anywhere that hires me.
All right, then. Well, I like that. Well, I feel like we got to know you guys and where you're at a lot so far. What I like about this portion of these questions is I'm just going to try to it's kind of like a speed questions, and whoever wants to answer, this will free for all. But there's always this is throwaway, okay? Aisle or window seat?
Window.
Yeah, window seat for sure.
Okay, really? Yeah. Some people choose aisle, and I don't know why.
That's my wife right there. Yeah,
maybe when you're old.
Yeah, okay. Aviation. Do you have a good aviation pun or joke that you heard or would go to?
Not any appropriate.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't think so. You don't want to wing it?
No.
You don't think you'd land the joke?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
if this gets cut, I have a good one.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll save it for later then. Okay. I threw a couple of jokes in there, but is there a jumbo jet that you would want to fly the most?
777.
747 for sure.
Yeah. Gotcha. Is there any reason why? Is it just? I mean,
it's the queen of the skies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just less and less of them.
Yeah. Okay. And then, do you have a favorite airport? I know y'all aren't flying
Denison.
As much as, yeah. Okay, cool. Right. All right. So we're nearing the end of this episode, right? But I don't want to end this episode before I give y'all probably the biggest piece, the biggest announcement we've made on the podcast so far. Maybe one of the biggest announcements that Thrust Flight has made yet. One reason we wanted to have two guys here from Denison is so that we could speak to what it's like to have multiple locations here at Thrust Flight. That being said, we are opening a new location in Conroe. If you know where Conroe, Texas is, congratulations. We have a flight school coming to you here very soon. We're going to have more details on that, but these guys can already attest to the fact that we know how to run multiple locations, and I'm excited for us to be all over Texas. Well, I just wanted to thank y'all for coming all the way from Denison. I say all the way. It's not that crazy far, but I appreciate y'all coming out here and sitting down with us. I've really enjoyed this one. I really am excited for everyone to hear what y'all had to say. Y'all gave a great amount of insight.